It's the one place in Las Vegas where railroad lore lives on. Flocks of extreme parrots play to packed houses. The bounties of field and tree are stocking up our farmers market, and there are many more stories at the Springs Preserve, where all that matters is what's elemental. Of all the forces, natural and human-made, that have shaped the destiny of the preserve, the coming of the train was one of the most significant engines of change. And still today, it's inspired the role of our own Replica Railroad in providing an enjoyable and educational connection between our past, present, and future history.
It's always an idea to have a tram or a train to take people and show them some highlights in the natural area. And so it made perfect sense to look into having a train, a replica of a train here. Since Las Vegas in its birth is a railroad town, it just made perfect sense to extend that idea to our programming here and have a train taking people to parts of the natural area here, the Springs Preserve.
This ride through the wilder side of the property is done in style because of the attention we paid to recreating the colorful and emblematic details of rail's legacy in Las Vegas.
The San Pedro, Los Angeles and Salt Lake Railroad was the railroad that came through Las Vegas and helped start the town. And so we were looking to try to provide some replicas of the logos, of the lettering, of the insignia for the San Pedro, Los Angeles and Salt Lake Railroad. So on our train it says SPLA and SL on the side of it, which was the logo for the San Pedro Railroad. And we actually did research. We contacted the Nevada State Railroad Museum, and we were actually provided with scans of paint chips, of the paint schedules from the Union Pacific Railroad at the time. So the colors that you see on our train, we tried to match as closely as possible to those paint chips, those historical paint chips and historical colors that were provided to us by those museums.
It sounds as good as it looks with all the bells and whistles, along with an audio tour that will help passengers understand the historical importance of the route.
You'll hear a lot about history. We outline the history of the Paiute, the Patayan, the other Native Americans that lived here at the Springs Preserve and in Las Vegas at the time. We also talk about the history of water procurement. We highlight the water well derricks and some of the other water facilities, early historic water facilities that we have on the site here.
Because it was the railroad that took advantage of and altered forever the preserve's once abundant springs.
The railroad company at the time purchased this land here. This was their property, and they wanted it specifically for the water for their locomotives, to be able to run their locomotives. Now, as an adjunct to that, they needed water for the town. They needed water for the workers in the town, since this was the main division point between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. So they did quite a bit of improvement work on the springs, encasing the springs, hardening the springs, covering them, putting in the redwood pipes that led to town from these springs, through these redwood pipes.
But when the needs of a thirsty town exceeded these resources, all that was left behind were reminders of a water supply that was too quickly drained dry.
As you ride the train, you'll see quite a bit of our historic water procurement facilities on site. And the one that always grabs people's attention is the water well derrick for well number 5. This is a large water well derrick that you can see from the highway.
You'll also get glimpses of our efforts to refill the Las Vegas Creek and recreate a traditional gathering place beside its banks.
People would come out to the springs, enjoy the creek, enjoy the shade next to the creek, and congregate and gather. And so we're hoping that picnic area along the train route will be something that people will be able to enjoy.
Just as they'll be able to appreciate our progress in reconstructing the early Las Vegas town site surrounding the original railroad cottages we've already restored to their former hominess.
So phase 1 of the cottages area was the actual restoration and rehabilitation of these Las Vegas railroad cottages built by the railroad in 1910. And so that phase 1 part of the project is completed, and the results are fantastic. And that's going to be a fantastic stopping point or origination point for the train and for early Las Vegas and us telling the story of what Las Vegas was like before it grew into what it is now.
So it's the perfect terminal point for a round-trip tour through the preserve's frontier, which will leave riders with a more complete understanding of rail's role in an ancient yet always changing landscape.
We have the entire timeline of Las Vegas here now, with the cottages, with the railroad, with the train, and what a fantastic resource, what a fantastic opportunity for people to come out and learn and understand where they are and what it's about.
Come celebrate Black History Month with us on Saturday, February 21st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Experience a family-friendly festival full of culturally rich traditions, local entertainment, African-American food, art and historic photo exhibits, along with films, face painting, and games for the kids. Log on to springspreserve.org for more information. Clint Carvalho has set the highest possible standards as an elite parrot trainer, which is why the extreme tricks of his troop of birds are tops on the Las Vegas Strip and now at the preserve.
I got a parrot when I was 11 years old, and the type of parrot I got was called a hyacinth macaw, which is the largest of all the parrots. And the funny story is, it was between that or a horse, and the horse was more expensive per month to take care of than the parrot, so I ended up with the parrot.
Almost immediately, the bird and her boy were doing personal appearances at local schools.
I got her as a pet and just played with her, and teachers down the road knew I had this bird. So by the time I was like about 15, 16 years old, they'd say, "Hey, can you bring that big blue bird to my school?" And so I'd walk around and the kids would pet the bird and everything, and at the end of the year they gave me a little certificate for coming out to the school.
But the real education began when Clint started learning from his birds and discovering what they really wanted to do on stage.
No more chicken. Can we do something else? Peter, what else can you do? Can we do something? No, not that.
If I train a bird to do 50 tricks or behaviors, the 3 they love, those are the only ones I do on stage. That's why I've been in Vegas for 25 years. When I go on stage, the birds are flawless because they're having a great time. It's their playtime. It's not a job to them. It's recess.
You ready? Go get that. Go! Damien, cut! Make some noise!
And it's love that motivated Clint to take in hundreds of abused and neglected birds over the years and give them a second chance to heal and please people.
Are you ready? Hi, Beatrice. Hi.
I'm gonna hoard all the birds. I'm gonna make the birds wonderful, and I'm gonna create shows and attractions, and they're gonna go out and interact with human beings on a regular basis, and that's one reason why we're here at the Springs Preserve.
Where they'll be entertaining audiences every weekend with a stellar cast of birds who can do extreme feats with ease.
They're going to see my show birds. They're going to see a Moluccan cockatoo, and she's going to talk and dance and do all kinds of really neat stuff, and I don't want to tell you the things she says, but she's going to talk. You're going to see the #1 talking and singing parrot in the world.
And lovers await the break of day. That is how it's done.
Then you're going to see the #1 free-flying bird in the world that actually, got me back to doing shows again. I'm going to give you a little bit of education and a lot of entertainment. It's going to be a lot of fun. So when you leave, you're going to know a lot about parrots, and you're going to see parrots do things you can't see anywhere else.
Then, in a special backstage pass opportunity, guests can meet and greet the parrots and be welcome participants in their recovery process as well.
When people are petting the birds and they're going, "Thank you so much," I'm going, "I have to actually thank you because you're actually making my bird that much better."
With the coming of spring, butterflies will be on the wing again as we reopen our unique natural habitat. Visit springspreserve.org for more information. The good news is there are so many fine native and exotic plants on display at the Springs Preserve that the even better news is that there's a nearly endless array of examples that will give you the tools to design your own ideal desert landscape.
What is a good, successful plant for here? One that can grow here and in our environment that's really closely aligned with the natural scenario here, as far as heat, as far as winds and colds and poor soils and water, of course, most importantly.
So, of course, our region's best adapted plants are the featured attractions in the preserve's most acclaimed collection.
The Mojave Cactus and Succulent collection definitely is one that we did have put together and will continue to build over time, but it's the one that we did have accredited and set up as the national collection of Mojave cactus and succulent plants.
And And our budding rose garden is becoming just as popular for its beautiful blooms and desert hardy varieties.
And we've really expanded that garden now. It's been in for a year now, and we'll be coming into that second year. So the ones that we all went in, they were all bare root roses. So they've coming into this second year. I think we're starting to see more maturity on that. We're starting to see some of them that have worked really well, and some of them that maybe haven't worked as well. So then we can continue to bring in some new varieties of roses and continue to build that collection.
But our edible landscape also yields a bumper crop of vegetables and educational opportunities too.
I think our vegetable garden is a big focus for us because that's very popular and something that people are very interested in. So we'll really continue to develop that around just making sure that we have good displays of vegetables for people to see what's possible to do here and how to do it and be inspired by that and also have programming associated with it.
Beginning and accomplished gardeners and everyone in between will find fertile ground for learning in the wide range of our weekend classes.
We always start out the first of the year with some type of a pruning clinic just to get your garden ready for when the growth happens. And then we'll also have like a beginning desert gardening class. A lot of people have been transplanted here from other areas, and it's much different type of gardening here than it is in other places. And the other one that has been really popular in the last couple of years are soils and how you can build up your soils and why those are so important. Our compost classes have been very popular, along with the vermicomposting where you use worms.
Along with these classes, we also offer free and informal tours that are guided by whatever's blossoming or interesting to our guests.
And during those tours, every Saturday and Sunday, you will either have a master gardener or one of the horticultural people here on staff. We kind of tailor it to who is in the group, but you also get to see the overall gardens and what is actually out in bloom at that time, and maybe some different tips on what you can do in your garden as well.
Even after hours and armchair gardeners can lay out a fantasy landscape with our online plant guide.
So there is a lot of criteria that you can put in there and start looking for different plants. And so there's lots of ways to glean information from that website by using that search engine.
Because the well-prepared gardener will make the wisest choices at our big plant sale in March.
We have plants that are available only from here because they've been born and raised here on site, as well as other distributors, but they're typically plants that you would find in the Southwest.
And we believe these tools that people are given at the preserve will benefit them in gardening as well as life.
There's so much to learn, and that's true. That's the good news. That's the bad news, is you never get to the end, but that's part of the fun.
During our Spring Plant Sale and Green Living Expo on Saturday and Sunday, March 21st and 22nd, you'll have your pick from thousands of native and drought-tolerant species, including many unique and hard-to-find treasures, as well as familiar Mojave Desert-adapted specimens. For more information, visit springspreserve.org. Discerning shoppers with a taste for the finest local fruits and vegetables will be glad to know just how much effort and thought organizers and growers have put into launching a smart new farmers market every Thursday at the Springs Preserve.
There are only 175 farms registered as producers or hold producer certificate in the state of Nevada. I'm an Indiana girl, so coming from the Midwest, that's not too many farms. And with the number of the population of Nevada, that concerns me that we don't produce enough food to even feed our own people.
The food situation troubled Teresa Wine enough that she returned to her own roots to get grounded again in the vital arts and sciences of farming.
So I took 8 weeks and I went back home, and in that 8 weeks I decided to reach out to the co-ops that I'd grown up with, the farmers markets, and I really loved what they offered our community, and that inspired me to bring it here because we knew that there was a need for it.
Especially in our Mojave metropolis, where people are really hungry for fresh and nutritious produce.
I had an opportunity to be invited to be part of the Southern Nevada Food Council. We study a lot about food insecurities within the city.
As a businesswoman, she also had a good idea of the market's economic benefits for small local producers.
It gives an opportunity for entrepreneurs who don't have a brick and mortar, an alternative source to sell product. So not only are we building community but commerce and keeping that within our community.
And teaching shoppers about really putting their money where their mouths are when it comes to buying sustainable and sensible food.
They see that we're bringing in an educational component. I like to see the community challenge themselves to learn something new.
Especially when there are experts like Brian Andy with his traditional farming background who learned about innovations in hydroponic crops, then dedicated such a unique skill set to making the Pahrump Valley fruitful with organic and greenhouse projects.
Hydroponically, I farm tomatoes right now and cucumbers occasionally, European cucumbers. The organic side, we have an orchard growing, a small orchard going. It's apricots, peaches, and different varieties of apples.
But it's just one of the many intelligent methods of bringing flavorful and healthy food from farm to market to table to final taste test.
It's a great experience to come to the farmer's market, and that's the beginning. But the beginning is actually to bring your taste buds back to life.
Come on, Vegas, let the good times roll as we party Mardi Gras style on Saturday, March 7th from 4 to 8 p.m. We'll feature live music, southern food, adult beverages in our beer garden, kids' crafts and activities, and all of the traditional Fat Tuesday fun for the whole family. Log on to springspreserve.org for more information. A day without learning is almost unimaginable here, and that's why so many students of the preserve and their parents have such high hopes that we can provide them with the enriching science experiences they deserve, even on their scheduled days off of school.
Originally, science camp was an idea that we had when several of the people that were regular guests were asking about activities that we would do on a day for teacher in-service days. And we had enough people that were guests that were regulars that were interested. We thought, why not offer an option for parents on those days, something that would be fun and engaging but still be educational.
Highly educational when you consider the lessons are designed to satisfy lofty STEM standards and to benefit from the exceptional Springs Preserve setting.
STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's just a way for educators to focus on what we're offering in fields that sometimes can be ignored or overlooked, not stressed as much. And so science, technology, engineering, and math, there's a lot of these things that can be found here at the Springs Preserve, whether it's natural sciences or architecture or design or just basic physics.
Along with a preserve staff that's perfectly qualified and excited, too, about providing the most memorable highlights of their personal STEM curriculum.
We realized that each one of us had, at one point, a lesson or a kind of a program that we remembered that made an impact on us. And we decided to put a camp together with kind of those greatest hits of educational programming. Why not have a day that was all of these things combined?
Just like the last camp that turned our young scientists into spy kids.
We had a science that was used in this field of spies. We did code breaking. We talked about camouflage. And then we related it back to the Springs Preserve. What kind of camouflage do the critters that live here 24 hours a day have? What kind of camouflage can you find in our gardens, on our trails, and things by the animals? It was exciting and engaging, but also educational the entire time as well.
Especially because attending camps like our upcoming Medieval Feast of Knowledge gives the kids exclusive access to so much of what only the preserve can offer.
We'll be talking about dragons, and we'll be going out to see reptiles and experiencing everything that zoology has to offer, getting up close with modern dragons that students normally wouldn't have a chance to if they just visited the Springs Preserve in a day. So even if you've been to the Springs Preserve hundreds of times, you can still come to one of the STEM camps and see something you haven't seen before.
And when the learning is that memorable, we know the lessons will be longer lasting.
So that's another great moment for us when we see the campers bringing back their parents. And I have seen campers dragging their parents along and teaching their parents the same lessons that they learned in our science camp. So I know it is getting in, it is making a difference. And it always brings a smile to my face to see that happening.
Come run away with Cirque du Soleil at the Springs Preserve on Saturday, March 28th. Join the 5K race or complete the 1-mile fun walk with your favorite Cirque characters. Enjoy entertainment provided by the cast and crew, photo opportunities with the performers, and activities especially for children. Learn more and register online at springspreserve.org. For the waning days of winter and the cool weather of early spring, Chef Cicely is cooking up a pot of hearty vegetarian chili that eats like 3 meals in one, with its vibrant colors, the aromas of toasted spices, and of course, the wow factor of each mouthful.
Howdy folks, my name is Chef Cicely and I'm joining you today at the Divine Cafe in the Springs Preserve in the great city of Las Vegas. So what we're making today is a vegetarian chili dish. The way I'm going to start out this dish is, as you can see, I have a variety of fresh vegetables out, chopped all and ready to go. I have some white onions, I have some green bell peppers chopped, I have red bell peppers, and I have yellow bell peppers. Now you might wonder, why would I have 3 different types of the same ingredient when it seems like the only difference is color? Well, that's really not true. They actually vary in flavor. But I will say that the color is extremely important, because what do we eat with first? Well, we eat with our eyes when we feast on it when it lays on the table. I also have some beans. They're soaked and ready to go. And then I also have some tomatoes. And these were canned tomatoes because it's the off-season, and buying fresh tomatoes in the off-season really almost takes away from the flavor because they weren't ripe when they were picked. If I get canned tomatoes and puree them in a food processor or pulse it in a blender, we get that wonderful flavor, that vibrance, and that aromaticity that really adds to our chili, because we also smell it first, and that really warms up our palate. The other thing that makes our chili really good is spices. So what I have is some onion powder, some garlic powder, some cumin, and also some coriander mix, which will give it that very rich southwestern feel, and then also some smoked paprika. So we've moved everything over to the cook station, where we're actually going to begin to start putting everything together. I've got 2 pans up here that I'm going to be working with to start. I'm going to start by putting some canola oil in there, and you'll notice I don't use olive oil in the chili. It's because I don't want to add that greenness necessarily to my flavor. Nice smoky spot off the bat. Canola oil actually has a higher smoke point, so you can cook at a higher temperature with it. I'm going to get these onions started and sweating, and I'm going to drop this down just a little bit, still keep a nice hot pan, and let some of the moisture kind of work off of those onions. Then what I'm going to do in this small, just a fry pan, I'm going to start toasting my spices. It's dry. I'm not going to put any oil in here. I'm going to take the cumin and the coriander, which I had already mixed, and the smoked paprika. And then there's a couple bit of cakes, a little bit of balls in the spices, so I'm just going to make sure those are all nicely broken down. And I'm just going to let this sit dry over nice low heat so that it'll continue to cook the spices, toast them off, and it's going to add a different depth, a different texture of the flavor. These onions are looking awesome, so I'm going to go ahead and add in my peppers. I like to add the green ones first. They tend to me to have the most pungent smell, so I'm going to start off with those ones so that they can cook off a bit of the greenness so we get more of the sweetness like the red peppers. And actually, a red pepper is really just a ripe green pepper, believe it or not. Hence why a green pepper would have a green flavor. It's not ripe yet. Next, I'm going to go to the yellow. Mix all those in. Take these spices, kind of mix them up a little bit, make sure that nothing's getting over toasted over the other ones. And it's really waking up the flavor. I can really smell a nice toasty, whole, satisfying dish. At home, this would wake up my whole house. Then I'm going to start with the beans. You can use soaked or canned. Either one, just depends on how much time you have. Mix all those in. And because beans are primarily a starch, they're lignans, they can take quite a bit of salt. I'm not a crazy salt person, but the beans will absorb some of the flavor of the peppers and the onions unless I add just a little bit during the cooking process. Stir this up, let everything get nice and warm. These spices are looking awesome. I don't want them changing color or anything. They're just smelling to the point that I want them to, so I'm going to say they're going done. Dump them right in. Stir this up again. And now I want to add some moisture so that it'll all continue to come together, and that is where I dump in my canned tomatoes. And when I look in my pot right now, one of the things that I notice is that, gosh, this looks thick. Doesn't quite look like a soup or anything. But that is actually okay, because as this continues to simmer, those onions, those peppers, those beans are all going to continue to cook down, and what's going to come off of them is their water content. So I'm going to let the moisture of the vegetables actually simmer out and loosen up my chili so that it becomes more like a soup instead of what looks like now more of a stock. So I'm going to set this one aside and let it simmer for a while. Magically, I have another one done right over here. And what we see now when I look into the pot is a nice homogeneous color, a bright red, and it smells just awesome. Our chili is done. All we have to do is serve and eat. So one of the things that I notice about this chili first is how wonderful it smells, and also how rich and vibrant the color is. It's just lovely. And I have all of these garnishes off on the side to even kick it up an additional notch with some chives. Who doesn't love cheese on their chili? And also a personal favorite, some creme fraiche, which is just a European style of sour cream that's a little bit richer, a little bit thicker, and a little bit sweeter. I want a little bit more green. And here you have it, folks. This has been a pleasurable cooking experience with you, making vegetarian chili here at the Divine Cafe in the Springs Preserve. I hope you enjoy the rest of winter. And I'm Chef Cicely, and I hope to see you here.
Chocolate throughout the ages has been the stuff of intense human passions and rituals, and a whole exhibit that's dedicated to its addictive history will be on display in the Origin Museum from February 8th through June 1st. And if your sweet tooth or curiosity just won't let you wait, you can attend an advanced preview on February 7th. That includes a guided tour and, of course, a tasting with an expert chocolatier. But make your reservations now, because many guests will be craving this exclusive opportunity. For more information or to purchase tickets online, visit springspreserve.org. There's a lot more to discover, so join us next time here at the Springs Preserve. We're going loco over trains, wild for trained parrots, mad about science, and everything in the natural world brings new life to Las Vegas.